It's the Morning Star Drive 117.8. You soaring up with sky, now's the time, don't delay. I'm sitting in my ride and it's time to fly. So let's realign, just listen and fill your mind.
I'm burning with desire and the passion. Nobody can stop me when I'm like this. I got my head in the zone, you know. I'm on the Morning Star Drive, you know.
Hey guys, how's it going? It's Friday, March 11th, and this is the Morning Star Drive on 117.8. We're on YouTube, so make sure to subscribe, follow us on SoundCloud, and make sure to support us on Patreon. So what is happening on this fabulous Friday? We've got some coronavirus updates, current news from around the world, word study about the Wednesday message, and let's testify with Tuli Ashton from Australia. All right, everyone, it is the last day of the work week. I hope you guys are having an amazing and awesome Friday morning or whatever time you're listening to this podcast. It is Friday. We're getting ready for this last day of the work week, and then we can enjoy this wonderful weekend, Friday night, all day Saturday. I hope that whatever it is you do, whether you're running for Providence, whether you are relaxing, taking a break, whatever it is, that we can do so together with the Lord. All right, so we are getting a new direction from the Sunday message this week, and I can't wait for it because next week is 316. I hope that everyone is really preparing themselves well, but I hope let's get things kicked off here together on the Morning Star Drive. So let's build the community, keep liking and commenting, and I want to hear from you guys and see how you're doing. Post your song requests, questions, stories, anything you guys like, go ahead, put it in there. Comment on comments, like on comment of comments, or whatever it is. Let's build a community for this English-speaking Providence community, all right? So, excuse me. What have you guys been doing for your preparation for 316? This week, especially as we're focusing on this, on the message, it's about conviction and having that absolute conviction towards the Holy Trinity. And of course, a lot of the different ways that we can do it, especially is thinking about the past and all the things God has done for us, all the omnipotent, omniscient things that He has done for us. Think back about those times and confess and acknowledge with your lips that God is the one that did this. We have to testify. Testify is another way to build your conviction. And I think a lot of us here too, a lot of people after doing the Sunday edition, they do feel it like, wow, after testifying, it reminds them, right, of all that, reminds them of that feeling that they went through and how much God was working with them. So I hope that we can testify also more than anything else. So I hope that for 316, let's testify. One big one, especially as we were preparing for, 2015, like the actual rapture, was a lot of time of repentance and just purifying ourselves so that we are clean for that day. And I hope that especially now, more than any other time, prayer is a huge thing that we really need to do. And when we look at all the different things that are happening, we know with all the hints and we're connecting all the dots, we see that it is time to do something. It is time to pray. And we got to pray for the war. We got to pray for national defense. We got to pray for Providence, pray for the head, pray for the witnesses. We have a lot of different things to pray for, but I hope that if anything, we need to connect to God's shimjung, His heart, right? So that we can be praying at the same level more than anything else. And I do hope it's something that we can lift ourselves to that next level lift ourselves to that next level where we're not just praying like, oh God, please be like this. No, but we're like in that mode. We're like, please God, you're the only one that can help us and help us during this difficult time that we're going through right now. Okay. So let's really prepare well for 316, which is basically 5 days away, right? That's pretty crazy. It's only 5 days away. And good thing is we have a prayer meeting tonight, and I hope that everyone's going to enjoy that. And of course, we'll have Sunday. We'll have Sunday service. Oh, and remember Sunday edition this week. We have the 100th episode of the Sunday edition. We have Garrett Van Hoy from America. And I hope you guys will really enjoy that one too. I'm really happy that not just the Morning Star Drives hit over 500 episodes, and super happy that our Sunday editions have hit over 100, right? So that is exciting for me too. So big congratulations to the team, the Morning Star Drive team, for doing all that work. And I hope that a lot of us here too can just really be in a great mode. Oh yeah. And guess what? Remember 316? 316 is a 2-year anniversary of the Morning Star Drive. So that is exciting too. We're going to be 2 years old on March 16th also. So I'm excited about that. I'm excited about that too. Okay. Well, there's one thing I want to share with you guys. I've been talking a lot about going through investments these days, right? And I'm going especially into the crypto space. And, being in a full-time Providence, running full-time Providence, like investment hasn't really been a big thing or big part of my life. But as I'm getting into this, I found something very interesting is you go like there's like Discord channels where you go into a new crypto coin or whatever it is, and you're going to see a lot of craziness happen. There's dips and people panic and sell, and then there's this and like there's so many things going on. But the one thing that I was realizing is people need to know what strategy they're in, like what kind of investment they're in, right? And for me, everything is long term. Well, I would say medium term because I'm thinking 1 year, right? So I'm thinking long term. And then there's some people in investment that they're doing very short term, right? They're going day to day, maybe 2 to 3 days at max, right? Just trying to see how much they can make or how much they don't make. And I have 3 long-term projects right now, so none of them are going to really come into fruition until a year later. But the one thing I found is it was killing my heart. It was making me anxious because I kept checking the prices like 10 to 15 times a day. It was crazy, guys. Honestly, it was crazy. And I realized at that point too is like, yeah, we have to understand. I had to understand myself and where my end goal was. So now I don't even check it because, it's just a stressing thing that doesn't, I'm going to do it for a year no matter what. And maybe if I cut it short, maybe it'll be anywhere within the 6 to 9 month range. So I'm at like 2 weeks right now. So I just decided to stop checking. Right, I'm in the Discord channels and I'm looking mainly at the announcements and not as the chat room. So I'm just excited about this more than anything else, and I'm hoping that here's the thing I realized, right? So now that I'm not checking it, it's not a big deal to me because I know that I'm going to be in it longer than 2 weeks, 3 weeks, whatever it is, right? And I'm not a short-term investor like buying and selling like crazy every single day, but it made me think a lot about evangelism too, and I feel that sometimes we're like that long-term investor that's checking the prices every single day, right? And it's the same as like, when you're managing lives, you're checking on them every moment. How are you doing? How are you feeling? Oh, it's kind of like this, right? But when we understand that, the short term, like when it comes to living, we're going to like, even for myself, like the average age someone dies in Canada, like a man is like 82 or 83. That's the average. So if I thought to myself, I'm going to live to 90, it means I have still like 50 years left of life. You know what I mean? And that's a long term, that's very, very long term, right? Of course, compared to eternity, it's not that long term, but these 50 years I have left, that's long term. I got to think about long term strategy, right? And not constantly checking every moment, like micromanaging myself. But I have to look at myself in the large picture. How are things going from January until March? Or until now in the first quarter of the year, right? How's the month going? How's the week going, right? And, if we start to understand ourselves, we're going to stop beating ourselves up over small things, right? That can, that some things take time to change. And I hope that we can understand that the faith that we have right now is not a short-term thing, right? Even if difficulties come, don't look at it in short term, because in short term, it's like, oh no, life sucks. Oh, and then like Sunseem said in the message, you start to like, where's God? Where, how come God is not with me kind of thing, right? And we have to be those that understand faith is a forever thing. It's not like, what'd you do today, right? What'd you do? Oh, did you mess up today? It's actually very, very long term. And we have to kind of take a step back and not be checking too detailed, like you didn't do this and you didn't do this and then in the end you just kind of feel like you're a failure more than anything else. So I really hope that's something that we can adjust our mindsets or our mentalities, right? Now, of course, if we're doing an event and the event is short term, obviously, then we're going to be managing things a lot more closely. But when it comes to our lives and who we are, I do think it's something that we have to take a step back and understand it in a different way. All right. So, and that's actually connecting with yesterday's, yesterday's Espresso with Sky video, right? 3 ways Satan enters your heart. 3 ways, how does Satan work against you and tempt you, right? And it's all in your heart and your mind. And I hope that is something that you guys will enjoy that video too on Espresso with Sky. Leave a like and a comment there too to push those videos out more than anything else. All right. Everyone, remember, this week's Sunday edition is Wei Chi from Singapore. Hope you guys are enjoying that. And of course, next week, number 100 is Garrett Van Hoy, as I said like before. So just please go ahead, enjoy these Sunday editions. I had this really amazing, there's a member from Australia just really made my day yesterday. Well, it wasn't really making my day, but I really, really was so thankful to God. They're like, yeah, sometimes we just binge watch the Sunday editions. I'm like, oh wow, and they were just really thankful for it. And I was like, man, this is these Sunday editions and these podcasts are much bigger than I thought they were. But I'm glad that people are being affected by it too. Okay, so another new video came out on Patreon this week, another word study for this week's Sunday message. So go ahead, check that out too if you're over there on Patreon also. Okay, so let's get into the featured artist of the day on this very, very relaxing and awesome Friday, 5 days away from 316. We're going to start off with Jew-Star Aiden Verdi from New Zealand, and this is one of her latest releases. This song is called Chrome, and she was telling me that she came up with this song because there was I think it was like an iPhone 12 or 13 she really, really wanted, and she just saw the Chrome, and that was something that excited her. So she wrote a song that was inspired from that. But of course, it's a very spiritual song. And then we'll get into The Sky from Japan with Too Much, and we'll end things off with the Rapture Collective from Australia with All My Thanks and Love. All right. So I hope that as we are going along in this history, and each and every day we'll put in a little prayer for all these amazing and awesome member artists from around the world.
Okay, what's going on here? Why is everything chrome?
Everything is chrome in the future.
Take those kitchen shears, start trimming until your mind is clear. Cut off your faults and flaws. Say God, Holy Spirit, Holy Son, I'm yours. I keep trying to fix myself, burning up my troubled self, living for the Lord alone. Watch our world, 'cause we shine like chrome. Every time I see you, God, I'm blinded by the light that shines from you. That's how I'm so excited. This future looking bright, 'cause we're chrome, yeah, we're chrome, shiny and new. Chrome, we are chrome, shiny and new. That's right. We're so cutting edge, knife blade of history, final frontier. What are you waiting for? Quick come now, the heart of the Lord. I'm picking up spiritual waves, better than Bluetooth, straight to my brain, leaving all the old behind. Watch our world, 'cause we chrome and we shine. Every time I see you, God, I'm blinded by the light that shines from you. That's how I'm so excited. This future looking bright, 'cause we're chrome, yeah, we're chrome, shiny and new. Chrome, we are chrome, shiny and new. That's right.
Your new iPhone has a fancy lens, band selling my face at my soul's expense. The world's obsessed, shiny things to impress, but the shiniest of all is the Lord's finesse. We shine by the word that the Lord possesses. We shine and we are Golden City, live blessed. Golden City, live blessed. We shine and we are shining like chrome.
Every time I see you, God, I'm blinded by the light that shines from you. That's how I'm so excited. Future looking bright, chrome, yeah, we're chrome, shiny and new. We're brighter than chrome, brighter than chrome. We are chrome, shiny and new.
の足跡を探す日々街を照らしてるネオンに揺らいでばかりだいつもの場所にたどり着く君の足元を見つめる僕の行くべき道を全部委ねさせてよ僕が振っていられるのは君だけさ過ぎるよ僕にはこの空君がいなきゃ意味がないよなんでもいいよ僕には君がくれたからそれもいい新しいところ
Yeah, welcome to God's new history. Daily preaching, the Bible no longer a mystery. Saving lives, taking action, what a wonderful destiny. Working tirelessly and we can become heavenly. All I ever wanted for you is to see we can become one with the Trinity. A condition was set by His highest. Confess and pray, create a new mindset. If you follow until the end, I promise you, you will surely realize God's divineness.
He's divine, y'all. Alpha and Omega, He's divine. Yeah. So let's reflect on the past. You gotta look deeply at the things God has done. Salvation at the highest has been granted. That's a blessing of blessings, the Lord's mandate. Spring water the heels faster than a band-aid. COVID safe cause His eyes was on us like a magnet. Got the seal on our foreheads, yet they can't do nothing. The devil and his gang have been disbanded.
So I praise my praise to you. So I lift my hands up high. Even in my weakness, even in my struggles, I'll always give my thanks and love. All my thanks and love.
Got so many bars that I never lose signal. Keeping it lit like a candlelight vigil. Lamp to my feet and a lighter to my palm. Lord's word is my perspective, the righteous collective. Filtering pollution, being mentally selective. Guarding the heart, it's a protective. Do it in a new way, in spirit and physicality. Do it in a new way, take your higher razor level. Giving God glory, God's love is the story. So rich in His love, feeling like a rich miser. Love is exploding like a geyser. Love so contagious, spread across the world like Pfizer. Antidote of a nation.
Reflect on the past. You gotta look deeply at the things God has done. Salvation at the highest has been granted. That's a blessing of blessings, the Lord's mandate. Spring water the heels faster than a band-aid. COVID safe cause His eyes was on us like a magnet. Got the seal on our foreheads, yet they can't do nothing. The devil and his gang have been disbanded.
So I praise my praise to you. So I lift my hands up high. Even in my weakness, even in my struggles, I'll always give my thanks and love. All my thanks and love.
And there it is, Rapture Collective from Australia with All My Thanks and Love. Before that, The Sky from Japan with Too Much. And the featured artist of the day, that was Juice Star Eden Verity from New Zealand with Chrome. All right, so let's get ourselves into the news going on around the world, and we're going to start off with the coronavirus updates. In the world so far, since the beginning of the pandemic, 452.4 million cases with over 6.04 million deaths, and that's a 1.33% mortality rate. Top 5 countries going by daily death rates. US is on top, and all the numbers are actually getting a lot lower, even on this Friday. U.S. is at 1,165 deaths per day with 39,000 cases. Brazil jumps to second with 652 deaths and 49,000 cases. Russia in third with 645 deaths and 58,000 cases. Indonesia is staying in the mix for the last 3-4 days. Actually, for the entire week, right? 304 deaths, 26,000 cases, and then Hong Kong in fifth with 291 deaths and 25,000 cases. All right, over here in North America, the U.S. is on top, and then Mexico, 265 deaths and 8,900 cases, and then Canada, 50 deaths and 6,400 cases. All right, so let's get into the current news going around the world. And of course, we've been reporting day in, day out about the crisis in Ukraine. There's a war going on. But before we get into it, there is some other news that's going on around the world that's really, really interesting that we should take into consideration. We're going to start off with South Korea. There was a presidential vote on Wednesday in South Korea, and a new president has been elected. Conservative candidate Yoon Suk-yeol elected president, and South Korea has chosen a conservative opposition candidate, Yoon Suk-yeol, as the country's next president following a tightly contested race. Yoon, a political novice, edged out a victory over the Democratic Party's Lee Jae-myung based on promises to tackle class inequality. He called his win a victory of the great South Korean people, but the result was one of the closest in history, with the final count separated by less than 1%. Early on Thursday morning, Mr. Yoon told supporters at his victory ceremony he would pay attention to people's livelihoods, provide warm welfare services to the needy, and make utmost efforts so that our country serves as a proud, responsible member of the international community and the free world. Now, both presidential candidates were viewed as widely unpopular throughout the campaign. Analysts said voters appeared so disenchanted by the frontrunners that local media dubbed the vote election of the unfavorables. So still, Wednesday's election saw a high turnout with 77% of eligible voters casting a ballot. Now, top of voters' concerns were skyrocketing housing prices, stagnant economic growth, stubborn youth unemployment, and gender inequality. Now, Mr. Yoon had also made abolishing the Ministry of Gender Equality and Family a central pledge of his campaign, and the ministry largely provides family-based services, education, and social welfare for children and spends around 0.2% of the nation's annual budget, less than 3% of which goes towards the promotion of equality for women. Now, during his campaign, Mr. Yoon had also lent heavily into a support base of young men, some of whom declared that there was no systemic gender discrimination in South Korea, and demographic breakdowns of the vote showed that many had voted for the third female candidate, Shim Sang-jung, who'd advocated for gender equality, the BBC's Laura Bicker reports. Now, in the foreign policy space, Yoon has promised a tougher reset on relations with China and North Korea and indications of closer ties with the U.S. The White House has already sent its congratulations to Mr. Yoon, saying President Joe Biden is looking forward to further expanding the two countries' ties. Yoon will become president, but with a Democratic Party majority in the single House National Assembly. The incumbent Moon Jae-in of the Democratic Party had to step down due to constitutional 5-year limits of the presidential term. So who is this new president? Who is he? Well, he only entered politics last year, and he rose to prominence for successfully prosecuting the former conservative president Park Geun-hye on bribery and corruption charges. And basically, he's kind of like Trump. Like, he wasn't a politician. He just came into the mix and he won. So he has pledged to abolish the Ministry of Gender Equality and has blamed the rise of feminism for the low birth rate in a country which has one of the worst records on women's rights in the developed world. Now, he is more hawkish on foreign policy than the current liberal leader Moon Jae-in, and he has said he will aim to develop technology to carry out a preemptive strike on North Korea if Pyongyang looks to attack Seoul, and he supports sanctions on Kim Jong-un's regime, which will bring him more in line with the policies of South Korea's main ally, the United States. Now, Yoon also wants to be tougher on China and proposed that South Korea should cooperate more fully with the Quad security alliance between the US, Australia, India, and Japan, an informal grouping created to counter Beijing's growing influence in the region, but he stopped short of saying Seoul should join the alliance, right? His views on foreign policy are a decisive shift from his predecessor, who favored engagement with Pyongyang and largely avoided taking a stance that would inflame China, the country's largest trading partner. So that is the news in Korea, which is very interesting because there was other elections. I think it's regional elections over there in India also. But one of the things Sunseem does talk about is when there's a change in political leadership, it means something, something big is happening, right? So I think that's something that we have to take into consideration too, of maybe something possibly why we need to pray a lot at this time. In second news, we'll go to Australia, and floods have been going on, and Prime Minister Morrison declares a national emergency and says he will over flooding in 2 different states. So the disasters in New South Wales and Queensland has killed 20 people and inundated thousands of homes in the past 2 weeks after record rains. Federal and state governments have faced anger for not acting faster to help residents, and Morrison's declaration, a national first, will allow federal authorities to intervene more directly. And he made the announcement on Wednesday in the town of Lismore, saying it had endured a once-in-a-500-year event. 4 people died in flooding there last week. The national emergency powers were established after Australia's 2019-2020 bushfires and aimed to cut through any red tape to deliver services and support, the Prime Minister said. Now, he said flood-hit locals and businesses would be able to access additional relief payments, and Australian Defence Force soldiers can also be more widely deployed to mop up towns. But Morrison faced a hostile welcome from some locals and climate campaigners. While waters have receded in some areas, there are still major flood alerts for places north of Sydney. The city experienced widespread flash flooding on Tuesday. Now, to become official, the national emergency needs to be signed off by state premiers and the country's governor general, which Mr. Morrison said should happen by Friday. Now, experts say the flooding emergency has been worsened by climate change and a La Nina weather phenomenon. So prayers go out. We have a lot of members over there in Australia and hope that everything is going okay with them over there. And let's just finally get into the war in Ukraine. And they just had a meeting, another round of talks between foreign ministers of Russia and Ukraine. And once again, they failed to yield progress on a ceasefire. So speaking after the meeting in Turkey, Dmytro Kuleba said that the demands his Russian counterpart Sergei Lavrov had made amounted to a surrender. So Mr. Lavrov, meanwhile, said his country's military operation was going to plan, and the talks come after Russia bombed a children's hospital, which Ukraine said was a war crime. Now, officials say 3 people, including a child, died in the attack in the southeastern city of Mariupol, and Russia launched a full-scale invasion of Ukraine 2 weeks ago, and more than 2.3 million people have since fled the country, right? So these numbers are going higher and higher each and every day. It started off with like 500 or 300,000, and 2 weeks later it's at 2.3 million. And this is kind of the worst humanitarian situation was in Mariupol, and where residents have been trapped for days in freezing temperatures without electricity or water. But Russia had not committed to establishing a humanitarian corridor there and had not responded to proposals for a 24-hour humanitarian ceasefire across Ukraine. So for his part, the Russian foreign minister offered no concessions and repeated demands that Ukraine be disarmed and accept neutral status. Moscow was waiting for a reply from Kyiv, he said. Now, Mr. Lavrov also accused the West of fueling the conflict by supplying weapons to the Ukraine, and Russia would cope with Western sanctions and come out of the crisis with a better psychology and conscience. So what is Russia doing now? With all these sanctions going on in Russia, guess what's happening? Russia hits back at the West. And now they are sanctioning the West with exporting bans. Okay, so this is a huge thing, because even if, Europe is saying that they're going to get, not rely on Russian oil by the end of, by 2030, and the UK is by, end of this year. But, they're trying to phase it out because it's not easy to do that. And Russia is going to make them do it much more quickly, which means there's going to be higher skyrocketing prices, especially in Europe and the UK. And they export bans on the West, right? and they're exporting bans on a string of products until the end of 2022. And the ban covers exports of telecoms, medical, vehicle, agricultural, electrical, as well as some forestry products such as timber. And the economy ministry said further measures could include restricting foreign ships from Russian ports. And it also said these measures are a logical response to those imposed on Russia. And the ministry added that the bans on countries that have committed unfriendly actions were aimed at ensuring uninterrupted functioning of key sectors of the economy. So governments in the West have imposed a string of sanctions on Russia, notably on buying oil and against billionaire oligarchs seen as close to President Putin. So far, 48 countries will be affected by this ban of exports from Russia, including EU and the US. Now, Russia's Prime Minister, Mikhail Mishustin, said the ban would include export of goods made by foreign companies operating in Russia. Item includes cars, railway carriages, and containers. And it comes as Russia's former president, Dmitry Medvedev, warned that assets owned by Western companies that have pulled out of Russia could be nationalized, right? Firms have been leaving en masse or halting investment, including industrial and mining giants such as Caterpillar and Rio Tinto, Starbucks, Sony, Unilever, and Goldman Sachs. And on Wednesday, Moscow approved legislation that took the first steps towards nationalizing assets of foreign firms that leave the country. And in a statement on Thursday, Mr. Medvedev said the Russian government is already working on measures which include bankruptcy and nationalization of the property of foreign organizations. And according to the most recent figures, Russia is the UK's 19th largest trading partner, with trade between the two nations totaling like $18 billion a year. Okay, so Russia is striking back, and it's going to cause even more world disorder, and prices are going to be going up in multiple things. So we got to pray about this a lot more than anything else. Okay. So that is the top 3 news around the world, which means we're going to get into some sporting news. NHL. Last night, there were just 2 games, but very important games for me and my Vancouver Canucks. And Edmonton wins their first game, won the game yesterday against Washington 4-3. But the Vancouver Canucks also won, defeating the Montreal Canadiens 5-3. Now Vancouver sits at 64 points. Edmonton is only 2 points away at 66. If they didn't win, we'd be tied. And we are just 3 points away from a playoff spot, and that's Dallas with 67 points. So I'm not going to pray about this because I think that's a wasted prayer with what's going on right now to pray for these teams to lose. But I'm just going to hope in my head that, Dallas and Edmonton. Well, actually, I hope that Edmonton makes it too. So I'm hoping that Edmonton and Vancouver move up, and both Nashville and Dallas move out of the playoff spots. So that's just my hope, right? In NBA news, we had Chicago Bulls defeating the Detroit Pistons 114-108. DeMar DeRozan, 36 points, 8 rebounds. Boston Celtics on a tear, right, in this last half of the season. They defeated the Charlotte Hornets 115-101. Jason Tatum with 44 points. Phoenix defeats Miami 111-90. Devin Booker, 23 points, 8 rebounds, 9 assists. Milwaukee defeats the Atlanta Hawks 124-115. Giannis Antetokounmpo, 43 points, 12 rebounds, 5 assists. Houston defeats the Lakers in overtime. Lakers are just terrible. I don't know why. LeBron James, 23 points, 14 boards, and 12 assists in a losing effort. And last but not least, we have the Denver Nuggets defeating the Sacramento Kings 106-100. Nikola Jokic, 38 points, 18 rebounds, 7 assists, and most likely he's in the front. He's a front runner for the MVP this season, which would be his second in a row. But just amazing player. All right. Last but not least, we can get into NFL. Now the season hasn't started, but news is going crazy. Trades, free agency signings. We have a draft coming up too. First one, there's a huge quarterback chaos going on. A lot of people are switching. Aaron Rodgers decides to stay with the Green Bay Packers, and he's probably going to be signing a 4-year, $200 million contract with $153 million guaranteed. So that's pretty crazy. Russell Wilson, huge trade from Seattle Seahawks to the Denver Broncos, and he's traded for 3 players and 4 picks, including 2 first-rounders. So that's huge. I think that's the biggest haul since Herschel Walker. Indianapolis Colts trade away Carson Wentz to the Washington Commanders for 2 third-round picks, and Man, so much stuff going, so much movement. A lot of franchise tags have been given out, but let's see. We're just waiting to see what is going to happen in the NFL before the new season starts, and it's getting pretty exciting already. And you can see that even more than hockey and basketball, all these other different sports, even when the NFL is not in season, they are still more popular than any other sport in America. Just by far. You can't even compare. Either way. So that is the news for today. Hope you guys really enjoyed that. And that leads us into the golden time. And this golden time, we're going to have a time of praise and worship. And this first song I chose really well because I wanted everyone to think of this week's message about all the things that God has done for us. So I chose that first song, Everything God Has Given. Right? All the blessings, all the grace. We got to think back, don't forget, and understand, wow, this is what God has really done for us. And I hope that it's something that we can really understand well. And then we'll go into Everything I Am is Because of Your Love. And I love this song. It's my favorite song right now. And then we'll end things off because the rapture is around the corner, the commemoration. It's a sacrifice like no other. All right? So as one body of the Morning Star Drive, let's spend this time giving praise, honor, and glory to the Holy Trinity.
Everything God has prepared, all He's given us, just like the Spirit. this feeling in my heart. Could I ever repay the love you've shown me? Your love that cannot be expressed with words alone. Oh Lord, I'm truly thankful for your love. I was anxious, alone, and wandering in darkness. I was not even sure if I could live again. Your love that cannot be expressed with words alone. That precious love of yours has saved my life. Lord, you have always prayed for me. You have comforted my heart. You've led me with the perfect word of truth. Now the time's come, the breath of life from God has entered me. I'm resurrecting higher. Everything that I am is from your love. Everything that I am is from your prayer. I will give my everything. My life belongs to you. My Lord, I love you so. Lord, you held on to me with this one promise. Since I've come to life, I'll surely save you. Your love that cannot be expressed with words alone. That precious love of yours has saved my life. We're flying higher than before. Since we passed the darkest time, the history of blessings has begun. Now the time's come, the breath of life from God has entered me. I'm resurrecting higher. Everything that I am is from your love. Everything that I am is from your prayer. I will give my everything. My life belongs to you. My Lord, I love you so. Everything that I am is from your love. Everything that I am is from your prayer. Until the end, I'll take this path. My heart will never change. My Lord, I love you so. Until the end, I'll take this path. My heart will never change. My Lord, I love you so.
He has prayed for me, my beloved
Lord, Lord. Prayed with all his heart, more than I ever have. With a sacrifice like no other and the greatest love. He gave everything for my spirit's rapture. From now on, I won't give up. By his sacrifice, I'll push onward and go heaven bound. Throughout my life, I'll hold his hand, and faithfully I will love my Lord with a sacrifice beyond compare, and with your greatest love. Once more I came back to life. Oh, I love you, Lord, I love you, my bridegroom, my Lord. Now I will live with you eternally. I will wash myself clean of all my sins and dress myself in clothes of a bride. I will not be weak, I won't waver, no, not anymore. It won't be in vain, all that you've laid down for us. From now on, I'll live for you. I'll pray earnestly, and I will repay that amazing grace. I'll make your word part of my life, and I will rapture to the greatest heights with a sacrifice beyond compare, and with your greatest love. Once more I came back to life. Oh, I love you, Lord, I love you, my bridegroom, my Lord. Now I will live with you eternally. When I just felt like giving up, all alone I couldn't hang on. You are my Lord, you've always prayed for me. Dreams of rapture were once so faint, just like a mist, but through you it became so real to me. I thank you, Lord. Is there a greater love than this? Could greater love exist? This love, as precious as life. Though I've realized it much too late, I will fulfill your will with love and love alone. Is there a greater love than this? Could greater love exist? This love, as precious as life. Though I've realized it much too late, I will fulfill your will with love and love alone. A rapture to you.
And that was a sacrifice like no other. And I do think that this is one of the things we do have to commemorate also is nothing, the rapture was impossible without the conditions of the Lord and the sacrifice that he gave. Okay. So before that was everything I am is because of your love and everything God has given. All right, everyone. So let's get into the word study for today. And today's word study is going to be on the Wednesday message of this week. Firmly believe that God, who is omnipotent and omniscient, and love him. All right. It's about conviction this week more than anything else. So I'm really thankful and grateful that we can have such a fiery message this week from Sunstein. And it gives us all the different key points that we really need to fire into our head. Like God absolutely needs witnesses in this history that like testify clearly about the Lord. And even more than, now, more than any other time, he needs them right now. And we just don't want history to repeat itself like it happened when Sunstein took the path of the cross, right? And that's something that in the end, during the time when Sunstein went to the cross, one of the big songs that came out was "We Are the Reason." It's a former faith song, but basically it's telling the truth that if we testified better, if we had absolute faith, it wouldn't happen that way. Right. And I hope it's something that we can kind of deeply think about, like, wow, this is something that we can't have happen again. OK, so let's make sure that we'll really, really be able to have that conviction that he wants more than anything else. And of course, when you get into the word of the Wednesday message, it's all about the more convicted you are, then the more you know about the Holy Trinity, the more you know about the Lord, the more firm your life of faith becomes, right? And we're blessed, right? The more convicted we are, the more blessed we are too, right? And the more we avoid going to death. So I really, really hope that all of us here too can understand at that level, right? We need to be so convicted just the existence of God, the Holy Spirit, and the Holy Trinity. Right? And with this conviction, we have to take action with that conviction. And then what does that mean? Well, there's a difference of someone who is absolutely believing and convicted of what they are doing, and they put their entire life into it, right? That's why some people put their life savings into something, even though there's a high risk, but because they believe in something so much, they're going to do it, right? And I would say that it's the same, it's kind of like love. Love is the same thing, because when you really, really love someone, you're willing to risk everything for that person because of love, right? And that's why conviction is connected to love more than anything else. And, like Sunstein said, many people lack conviction, right? We lack conviction. Now, the former faith makes sense because in the interpretation of the Bible is not right, and they can't really see how God is working in this new time period. But us, the reason why we should have absolute, the way that we see, the way that we have conviction should be that much greater, because we see the fulfillment of history through the one that he sent. Like they can't see it, but we see it. Like the biggest example we can say is just understanding where it came from and seeing how he worked on it for like 20, 30 years. You're like, oh my goodness, this is incredible. And that's just a sign of how God is working through the one that he sent, right? People who don't know, they only have general and vague ideas. And that's why people who don't know very well, they always give you these like very general answers like, oh, just pray about it. Oh, I'm not sure. Yeah, I think it's like that. This is very vague. But we have to be those that are absolute. And absolute means constantly listening, constantly experiencing, taking action, and seeing how much God is working in our life. And the more we do, and the more we put the words of God into action, the more convicted we are able to become, right? So the question that came out in the message that Sunstein answered was, what do you need to do to feel God more and be sure God is helping you and God is with you? Like, what do we need? If we want to feel God more and you want to be sure God is helping you and God is with you, how will you know? Well, the answer came from look at how God appeared through all the central figures in the Bible, like Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Joseph. You go all the way to King David, the prophet Solomon, everyone else, right? They were all saved from from war and death, disease, close calls. And this is what helped them to have conviction. Right? Think about, and this point I think was one of the bigger points is, look at after Malachi, the last prophet of the Old Testament. After him was 400 years of silence. And at that time, people's faiths went to sleep because there wasn't a man of God there. And it took 400 years where Jesus came and he preached, he healed, he did everything. He did everything to resurrect everyone, and everyone's faith came back to life. Which means, when are we going to be the most convicted? When we feel God the most? And when are we going to be so sure that God is with us? It's when the person of God is there. When they're gone, when he's gone, right? Him or her, because all throughout the Old Testament there were like Ruth and Esther and all these other women-centered figures too. When you think about it, when they were there, you saw God in action. But when they're not, people aren't really sure. And think about that, was 400 years. So we have to be those that understand that right now, at this time, is a time we can be most convicted more than anyone else. And this is why sometimes like, come on, you guys got to be convicted. You're seeing it with your own eyes and listening to it with your own ears right now. And this is why all of us have to keep listening to the words really well, take action together with the Lord, be convicted of the deeds of God, who is the absolute being. And we have to know that right now, when the man of mission is here, when the person sent by God is here, this is when we can love God and take action the most than any other time in history. And we can say it right now because we're at the highest level. So we can confirm the existence of God through the man of mission. Right? How do we start to believe and love God as a bridegroom? Through the words from the person God sent. This is why we're able to embrace God. This is why, even though we can't see him, we see him with our hearts, because we listen to the words each and every day. Right now is the period of faith. Right now is a period where we can be most faithful than any other time. God has sent the man of mission to this time period. And this is the time where the reality, the things that we thought were only dreams that would never happen, is coming to reality and fruition right now. We are living our lives, and especially Providence people, because we live and believe in this time period and the one that God sent, we are the ones who are most convicted. And if we compare ourselves to the former faith, we should be high, the level should be so much different. We just got, like I said, just got to look at Mormondom. And look at all the things that God did to use Sunsteam and all the workers there to make it. It is incredible, right? And we can see that more and more, we have to really, really kind of take our hearts back to that time of the rapture. Like, even when remember Sunsteam's talking about the Holy Son? Everything that he needed to do, he did before he left. And on top of that, he didn't just rapture the spirits, he gave us church buildings, right? And this is why we have to absolutely believe. We have more than enough. More than enough to believe. So, oh man, like there's just too many things that we can look at. And, if you guys want to get set on fire again, I tell you right now, go listen to the Sunday message again when Sunday was just on fire, right? So let us be those that are more convicted, because the more we believe, the more problems are resolved and the more we can do, right? The more we believe, the more we're convicted, the more problems that are solved, the more we can do, the more that we're blessed. So everyone here, let's keep listening to the words of the time period. Let's have that absolute conviction in the Holy Trinity. Acknowledge, confess that they were the ones that saved you. They were the ones that solved your problems. Oh, thank you, God, because of that time. You did this when I could have died by gunshot in South Africa. It was God who saved me. There was no other person. God saved us. We could have died. There's no other way. And that last point that Sunstein made, because it was a short message, right? The last thing point made was we need to feel God spiritually and we need to see him, and then we'll have more conviction. So it wasn't just like experiencing, but we have to see him spiritually. Open the eyes of our heart, right? right? We need that strong conviction, because if we can't see clearly in the spiritual world, right, then it's hard to be that much more convicted on top of what we have. And this is why we need to pray to see what is going on. The spirit goes to the spiritual world, right? Spirit goes to the spiritual world. We see God, and the body exists, so your spirit is going to the spiritual world, but the spirit is also connected to your body. So what happens is your body's existing in this world, but is realizing through your spirit that's gone to the spiritual world. So which means that you may not literally see a vision, you may not have a dream about it, but it's your spirit in the spiritual world connected strongly to you. And even though I didn't go to the spiritual world where I can see myself walking around the spiritual world, but since your spirit's there, it's connected. If it's strong, then what happens is you're convicted by that, your spiritual side. So we have to live in full conviction, not forget the things God has done for us in the past, and then we're going to make miracles. We're going to see signs, right? We're going to cast out Satans and demons. We're going to cast away the wicked people that are trying to harm us, and that's one of our big prayers, right, for this time. The Friday prayer meeting, the Sunday messages, all those things coming out, 116, we've got to pray, because through this full conviction, Satan's wicked people, demons stand no chance. We have to be full of conviction. We have to believe and love them, right? And we can fulfill a higher level of rapture. How is rapture fulfilled? Remember, ultimately, everything is through love. Everything. So we need to raise the level, and then every 316, God will raise the level of the history. We need to do things clearly. Then what happens? Life is greater. Our life will become greater to a new level. Do things clearly, then you are set on fire. So we need to run with conviction. And the great example that Sunset gave is be like the SS right now. They are on fire. But the one thing I really enjoy, the one thing that was really deep was, but these SS, they're like, the SS are like small branches, right, that are burning. They're on fire. But what's the problem is, it can't just be these small branches burning, but also the larger logs, the people who are in bigger positions, people who've been here for longer, these logs have to be set on fire too. Because if the large logs aren't burned, then eventually those small branches cannot fully burn either. And this is why we need to burn together. Those original, like those small branches, like the SS right now, they're there, right? And when they're there burning, they're able to begin the fire. But eventually these large logs, all of us have to be set on fire too in order for this history to really, really burn more than anything else. Okay? So yeah, the Sunday message was just incredible. Wednesday message, incredible again. And I hope that all of us will really be able to be even, we have 2 days left. Just really set ourselves down, testify, be convicted, experience with God, and do our best in all that we do. Okay, so that is the word study for the Wednesday message. Hope you guys really enjoyed that more than anything else. And that will bring us into the song of choice for today. And of course, on every Friday, it is a musical Friday. So I picked a cover of a musical song. So this is one of my this is like probably my favorite Disney musical animation, which is Aladdin. And from the Aladdin musical, or from the movie itself, my favorite song obviously is A Whole New World, okay? Now, with A Whole New World, interesting thing is there's a lot of covers out there, and I chose this cover I've heard for the first time from Boyce Avenue featuring Janelle Garcia, and I really, really like this version too, so I hope you guys really enjoy this. This is A Whole New World from the Aladdin soundtrack, and this is a cover from Boyce Avenue featuring Janelle Garcia.
I can show you the world, shining, shimmering, splendid. Tell me, princess, now when did you last let your heart decide? I can open your eyes, take you wonder by wonder, over, sideways, and under, on a magic carpet ride. A whole new world, a new fantastic point of view. No one to tell us no, or where to go, or say we're only dreaming.
A whole new world, a dazzling place I never knew. But now from way up here, it's crystal clear that now I'm in a whole new world with you.
Now I'm in a whole new world with you.
Unbelievable sights, indescribable feeling, soaring, tumbling, freewheeling through an endless diamond sky. A whole new world.
Don't you dare close your eyes.
100,000
Hold your breath,
things to
it gets
see.
better.
I'm like a shooting star. I've come so far. I can't go back to where I
A whole
used to
new
be.
world with new horizons to pursue. I'll chase them anywhere. There's time to spare. Let me share this whole new world with you.
A whole new world.
Whole new world, a new fantastic point of view. No one to tell us no or where to go.
Or say we're only dreaming.
A whole new
Every turn a
world
surprise.
with new horizons
Every
to
moment
pursue.
revealed.
I'll chase them anywhere. There's time to spare.
Anywhere.
There's time to spare.
Let me share.
This whole new world with you.
A whole new world.
A whole new world.
That's where we'll be.
That's where we will be.
A thrilling change.
A wondrous place for you and me.
And that is the song of choice for today on this Musical Friday. That is from the Aladdin musical, A Whole New World, covered by Boyce Avenue featuring Janelle Garcia. And I hope you guys really enjoyed that. So let's get into the last segment for today and for the entire weekend. A lot of people look forward to this. A lot of comments on this segment. Let's Testify from Tuli Ashton over there in Australia. And we're going to go into part 3, the last section of the interview with Chunpeat over there in Germany. Hope you guys really, really enjoy this more than anything else. And please welcome Chunpeat and Tuli Ashton from Australia with Let's Testify.
Actually, there were some changes going on, and there was this opportunity basically to fill that role as a head leader. And I was quite young at that time, so I had been roughly 5 years in Providence, just turning 25. Very thankful that they gave me this opportunity, but yeah, again, it wasn't always easy, and it wasn't always but it was not always hard either. So there's always good parts, there's bad parts. There's parts that are easy and joyful, and there are parts where it's really struggling and difficult. But one of the things is ultimately it's the grace and it's the love of the Trinity. And more actually, it's so amazing to basically see Sansani, because whenever I look at him, I'm amazed how he can, treat each one of the members in the right way, and to actually, like really hit the nerve, because none of us can do this actually. And what I feel also amazed by, because I've been looking for this kind of person my whole life, is basically somebody who doesn't only say something, but actually does it and actually shows it in his life. Because there's so many people who like, they write this kind of things and they're like, you should like do this and you should do that. And, like living a good, faithful life should look like this. But then actually their lives doesn't look like this. But what I feel so amazed by is, that we actually can see his life is absolutely, concentrated on the Trinity, used by the Trinity. So I'm so thankful that I could learn and that I can understand and follow the words and can see the power of the words every day in my life. And there were, again, as I said, parts where it was really difficult. So as well, when I was head leading in England, there was some times where it was very difficult because we were all quite unsure. It was just before the rapture. We were all quite unsure what's going to happen. And we couldn't really fully feel it. And some of us might have felt it more than others. But it was a time where we were quite not sure what will happen, how will it look like. But then when it actually then happened, it was also not something we fully were grasping, I believe, at that time directly. But it took some time for us to actually realize. And it was a very interesting position to actually, try to lead everyone. But then myself actually having to first fully understand and feel and grasp that, like, idea of, I raptured. It changed now, and to guide in that direction. But I felt after that time, I felt like, we really have understood now, and we could come to that level now, that I felt also I need to reflect once more and strengthen my individual relationship with the Trinity and with the word. So I decided to put down my mission, and I went to Korea actually at that time. And in Korea I started to kind of learn again, to figure out again, and to try to find a direction again. And it was very interesting also, because there were times when things that were really amazing and I could feel the Trinity a lot, but then also there were times I felt a bit lost, because suddenly there were these huge churches, and before, obviously in a like smaller scale, and particularly as a head leader, it's very obvious if you're there or not. But then in a huge church, if you're there or not, it doesn't really like make such a big difference. It's not that obvious directly. So it's easy to also become a bit lazy and to become a bit more of a person who like is on the back in the background. And again, I felt like I'm a bit aimless, but not in a sense of like aimless with my whole life, but more in a sense of how I should develop myself and be used in the future. And again, I was 100% sure actually that I will receive the answer, and that the Trinity is definitely with me. But it doesn't mean that it was, again, so easy actually. So at that time, it was actually before Alpha Day, and this was around 2016, I believe, and it was just before Alpha Day, and I had actually been, again, as I said, like searching and a bit unsure how to go forward, and I felt a bit down, a bit wondering. But I actually, at that time, I wrote a letter, and I basically said, I do believe still 100% that the word is my direction and that it's the truth and that it will give me the answer. I might feel at the moment like a bit helpless, but it doesn't mean that this is the end. This is a part of my process, and I know this. So I absolutely trust that through the words, there will come this answer, there will come this change. And the amazing thing is that the word is overflowing at this place. So I'm absolutely 100% sure that I will get out of this. So don't worry about me. So, and after actually had just written this, I really felt like I need to go back to what the word, and I actually need to remember as well what changed in my life. And after that, I kind of received direction of like to testify. And I realized every time I testified, I came alive again. I received the fire because I again became thankful for what had already happened. And also Alpha Day came. And when Alpha Day came, what was the message about? The word is so important, and the word is fire, and you will be set afire. You will be made alive if you follow the words. And we had a Holy Spirit movement, and I fully received Holy Spirit at that time, and I felt, amen, this is truly it, because I felt like this is something that I realized on an even more fundamental level, that actually this is the truth, and that only this truth can give me eternal joy, can give me eternal happiness, can give me eternal direction, and also give me a fulfilling life on earth right now. So even though I had actually kind of vowed not to become a head leader again. And I had gone to Korea to kind of, again, as I said, find my direction. When I received that fire and had actually, once more realized about the fundamentals of the power of this word and the power of the one who is delivering this word, I decided to once more actually open myself up to go wherever the Trinity wanted to lead me. And it happened that there was again this opportunity or mission to become a head leader. And this is how I actually came to Germany and became again a head leader in another country. And this is what I'm doing right now. Again, there's always times that are easier and there are times that are more tough, but ultimately this is where hope is, where joy is, where the truth is, and where love is, perfect love. And therefore this is actually the only place I ever want to be, no matter in what capacity or whatever way. So I'm really thankful that the Trinity has guided me and led me, and that I know for sure that they will continuously lead me and guide me, and that there's always new things to develop, see, and no matter what kind of difficulties come, or no matter what kind of things might be difficult, that there is always an answer, and that there is always this truth that can guide, and that will ultimately be the answer for everything. So yes, that's my story. I hope that somebody somewhere will receive some strength through this, and that everyone can actually really feel and in their own life really receive that joy and live that joy. Thank you so much.
And that was Let's Testify with Tuli Ashton over there in Australia. She's doing an amazing job doing all these interviews. And I'm so thankful that she can get really in deep and in depth with all these people from around the world with their testimonies of what's happened in their life and how they came to God. And I hope that you guys are enjoying this really a lot too. Thank you so much for Chunbeat for that 3-part series over there. All right, everyone. Super grateful and thankful for all of you who have joined us here this week on the Morningstar Drive podcast. Have an amazing Friday prayer meeting tonight. We have Sunday service on Sunday, of course, and the Sunday edition with Garrett Van Hoy, which is our 100th Sunday edition. Everyone, have an amazing weekend, and we'll see you guys again on Monday on the Morningstar Drive on 117.8.
It's the Morning Star Drive 117.8. You soaring up with sky, now's the time, don't delay. I'm sitting in my ride and it's time to fly. So let's realign, just listen and fill your mind.
I'm burning with desire and the passion. Nobody can stop me when I'm like this. I got my head in the zone, you know. I'm on the Morning Star Drive, you know. I'm burning with desire and the passion. Nobody can stop me when I'm like